Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the CraftyLittleRat podcast. My name is Hannah, also known as CraftyLittleRat on Ravelry and Instagram. It's really cold up here, so I've got Reese's dressing gown on, which is not the most flattering look, I know. But I wanted to record because it's been forever. My last episode was, I think that it was the end of February, and it's now, end of January even, and it's now nearly the end of March. So I knew I was going to take a bit of a break anyway, because I've been on my holidays. We went to Vancouver in Canada, and it was amazing. We spent 3 weeks over there, and it was, it's such a beautiful city. It's hard to know what to sort of say about our time there because it was lovely. We didn't stay with friends. We had our own apartment, but we were in the same city as people who we've known for a few years online, but never actually got the chance to meet in person. So it was lovely to see them and to hang out with them and the dog, because you know me, if there's a dog involved, I'm always happy to be there. Or cats, or rabbits, or guinea pigs, or any sort of small animals. And then we came back, and I've been really sort of struggling. You might notice that I'm not in my usual podcasting location, and where I am is a bit of a mess. You can see, if I lean that way, there's a bed behind me, there's a put-you-up bed behind me, and this is because I'm in my spare room. We have a sofa bed in here. Reese has been sleeping in here because he's snoring and they can't get, I've no idea why, they can't get a sort of a grip on it. He broke his nose quite a bit when he was younger playing rugby, so maybe that's why. But so yeah, because I normally podcast in my living room because there's great light. It is, what is it? It's about 7 o'clock, so light isn't great anywhere at the moment. But yeah, so I normally podcast in my living room, was where I was going with this. But then I hate sort of kicking Reese out while I podcast and all of those sorts of bits. So I'm figuring that I'm going to try it up here. I mean, the thing is, with my living room, it's that lovely, the wall colour is fantastic because it's blue, whereas we live in a rented house. So those very weird circles on the wall, so that side of me actually, are mirrors. But they're not very big mirrors. They're like not suitable to use as mirrors. But they were left here by the previous tenants, so don't dare take them down because I think we'll take the wallpaper off with them. This is supposed to be my craft room and the spare room, but it's been neglected. So hopefully, because I mean you can tell there's a guinea pig igloo on top of there. We don't have guinea pigs. It was for a hamster at one point. Craft supplies mini fridge. From when we moved like 4 times ago. Who knows? It's become a bit of a dumping ground. Not more so than the room sort of that way, which is a horrible dumping ground. But anyway, this isn't the point. So yeah, today is, obviously, if you've not already gathered, going to be really sort of fast and loose. I haven't got show notes in front of me. I will probably type some up. Maybe. I don't know. But I just... tired as well. I just really wanted to get something sort of out there. Mainly because I want to use some of the things I've knitted. I've been like, no, save them till you've podcasted them. Anyway, so we'll go straight in and I will blabber on about other stuff as soon as it sort of comes up. Yeah, the only other thing with fantasticness with while we were in Canada was that we got married while we were over there. So I might try and throw in a few pictures at the end of there. Probably not. I will try and get some up at some point. Because I did knit my wedding dress. The dress I knitted was my wedding dress. If anybody's been watching from a few sort of episodes ago. I mean, I know I've been podcasting a while now, but I haven't released that many episodes. So, you know, you're only 9 in. They're mostly under an hour. But anyway, so you're still working on that is my segment for works in progress. So I've got 2 works in progress at the moment, which is really good for me. I normally have a huge amount. So I am working on these. These horrible shapeless things are socks. They're 2 at a time socks. Now, right, I have Ravelry open in another window, and because I'm on a proper desk this time, it shouldn't shake too much. Hopefully, when this room's sorted, which should be after this weekend, I'll have a nice, decent sort of a space to show things, and I'll be facing against that wall, which might have a better backdrop. Not really, but hey, I can put my wall in. I'll be facing my storage unit with my wall in it, so that should be a nicer view for you guys than just this weird door. Anyway, so the pattern is Braymore, which is by Anna, A-N-N-E-H, Anna Fletcher. She is one of the designers for the Canadian Knitters Winter Camp. So these socks, I am knitting them 2 at a time. And they're done from the cuff down. The yarn I'm using, is awful. And I don't know whether it's the fact that, which you cannot see, but the sock is done, maybe you can. The sock is done in 2x2 rib. So all of the top, all the way around, is 2x2 rib. The pattern is easy. It's the ingenious bit is with this heel that forms sort of a diamond shape on the heel, which is really nifty. Then obviously your foot is flat. But the top is still ribbed. Whether it's that, because I'm not a huge rib fan. And this yarn, which is the Garn Studios Drops Delight, it's very, very woolly. Can you sort of see the halo and the fuzz on that? I mean, it's really obvious in person. And I went down in needle size. I think I went down in needle size. I used a 2.25, which is down in needle size for me. She recommends a 2.5, so maybe that's partly my problem as well. But it is a very, it's a very thick sock. It's very dense, especially on the bottom. So I think the next lot I knitted these, I will use a 2.5. But I'd got these, which is the Knit Pro Zings, just because I fancied a bit of a change, really. I just fancied trying something a little bit different. And I've got quite a few 2.5, so I thought I'll go for a 2.25. But yeah, I'm going to finish these, and I always was going to finish these, because the aim is if I finish them in this month for winter camp, I get bonus points. I get 20 bonus points because they're socks, which is something for the feet, which is the category. I get 20 bonus points because they're from a featured designer, and I get 20 bonus points because they've got green in them. So, yeah. But I'm not enjoying them, but I will be grateful for them when they're done, I suppose. These are living in a very, very cute bunny bag. Now, the lady who makes these for my local yarn shop, so there's not really much point in saying who they're by, but it's just a very sort of simple, non-lined even, just a very simple bag with just seamed and a drawstring added in. But I thought it's cute with the little bunnies and the little toadstools. Don't know whether I've shown you guys this before. These came with me to Canada. I had this one, and I have, I have another one, owls, I think, on my other one, and I really, really like them. They're nice. They're a really nice size. So anyway, so that was Braymore by Anna Fletcher in Drops, Garn Studio Drops Fable Delight. I'm tired. I always say this, don't I? I always say that I'm tired. I need somebody else to podcast with, maybe, so they can stop me saying stupid things. So my next on my needles is I cast on. My aim was to do those just on their own until they're finished, because winter camp finishes at the end of the month, which is today's the 22nd, by the way. So it's sort of like a week and a couple of days out. So I don't know whether I'm going to finish this in order to claim it for points, but if I do, I do. So this is the very, very, very start. I haven't got very many stitches on the needle of the Sunny Days Shawlette. Haven't got this one in my page. I haven't got a page put for this yet on Ravelry, but it is in my queue. Pattern matches yarn, which is how I pair everything up. Carle Denning. It's a pattern on Ravelry. Is it a paid for pattern? Probably. A lot of the ones I like are paid for patterns now. Oh no, available for free, which is great. So it is a 2-coloured shawl, but I'm only going to use the one. This is a splash of colour on white by Rosie's Moments, who's a UK independent dyer. Now this yarn I bought at Wonderwall last year. I bought five skeins of yarn last year at Wonderwall, and this is my last one that I have not knitted up. So, because Wonderwall is in April, and I'm going to have this done by April, I will have knitted all of my Wonderwall yarn before Wonderwall again. How fantastic is that? That never happens for me. So I really like this, and I knew because of the large proximity of white in it that I did not particularly want it to be socks, even though it is sock yarn. I don't think I have the tags up here. I think it is. Oh, I have it in my queue. Yeah, so it is a fingering weight. It's 4-ply. It's a superwash hand-painted merino. Oh no, it says it's 100% merino. I was sure there was some nylon in it, but it feels like there's nylon in it. It feels like a sock yarn. But anyway, I knew that this wanted to be a shawl from the very moment I laid eyes on it across the room. Sorry, I've got my foot in a storage box there and it just made a farty noise. Oh, professional production this is. So yes, so I knew that this was wanted to be the shawl. It's a very, very easy knit actually. It's free, so I'm not giving away a whole lot, but you start off and it's standard. Fairly standard triangular shawl construction. You're increasing 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches every other row, and then 2 stitches. 4 stitches on the right side, 2 stitches on the wrong side. So yeah, and you do that until you get to X amount of stitches, small size and a large size as well, which is always nice. And then you follow her instructions. So yeah, obviously the colours are quite sort of concentrated. If I point at the right side, so sort of there, and obviously, and sort of there, there. As the shawl gets larger, this is what I'm trying to say. I'm covering my mouth again, Hannah. Stop it. As the shawl gets larger, these colours are going to be sort of more spaced out along the rows as well, which will be nice. I don't wear a lot of white, but I do wear a lot of pops of colour, so I think this is going to be something that's, you know, sort of really versatile for me. Because I don't particularly care about colour matching things. I don't particularly care if I go out and I'm clashing, to be honest. I just love, you know, I love bright colours, and I love the way it shows on the pearl side as well. So yeah, that's that. This is using larger needles. I think it's 3.5. So that's obviously better. It's obviously far better for me with the wrists than the 2.25s because I knitted 90% of Saturday on just those. I got sort of the heeling creases done, and then I turned the heels, and then my hands were just aching. So I cast that on just to have something in a slightly larger gauge to knit. Okay, so that's the 2 things that I'm still working on. All that said about short podcasts, and we're now at like 13 minutes, and I've still got a whole host of things to show you. Right, so before I left, we'd talked about what I was going to cast on, and I think I showed you the yarn for this, but obviously I hadn't started it because I know I started it on the bus on the way to Heathrow Airport on the 2nd of February. So, because I wanted to knit this on the plane. So, this is, sorry, I will have to cover my face for this. This is Grimes, which is a pattern by Megan Sanders, who was also a featured designer for Winter Camp for February. So you can see it's garter stitch with right side hand. It's garter stitch with sort of diagonal travelling stockinette panels. This is a really nice shawl actually. It was super tiny. Don't know how well I'm maybe blocking the microphone, so. So, it was really, really small, but then it blocked out particularly well. I really sort of found that blocking this gave it a huge growth. So, something to maybe consider. And again, this is Garden Studio Drops, and this is the Fable this time, which is their smoother sock yarn. So this colourway was Rose Mist. And again, am I showing it to you? I'm showing it to you the wrong side. So Rose Mist was this colourway, which is nice. And again, pink was one of the featured colours for February. So this one netted me 60 points, 60 bonus points, because featured item was for your neck. So that could be a shawl or a scarf or a cowl. The featured designer, Megan Sanders, was a featured designer. And then the colour was pink. So I got 60 points for that, plus points for the yarn I'd used, with the weight of the yarn I'd used. So this pattern, Grimes, normally has fringe. I am not a fringe fan. Fringe didn't count as well for winter camp. Fringe and pom-poms and not bobbles counted, but fringe and pom-poms didn't count. So I didn't see the point in adding them. The item would have been less wearable for me, possibly with them, so I left them off. I made it slightly larger than the pattern suggested as well, I think. I don't know, I can't remember. I knitted a lot of this on horrible cheap plastic needles. These are not those cheap plastic needles, but these are some that came in a set. And I think these are maybe the 2.5s. Look at that. Ooh, I mean, you know. Because I was petrified about them taking my knitting needles off me on the flight. Or before the flight at security, really. Because it was an 8 and a bit hour flight. So I was really paranoid. So I packed wooden needles and I packed plastic needles. But I didn't have any problem. Nobody mentioned anything to me. They were more concerned at Heathrow, which we flew out of, about us getting our technology out of our bags, rather than, flying back through Vancouver, they just wanted computers, laptops, which was fine, but Heathrow, no, they wanted all technology. So Reese had his tablet, which was fine, but I had my camera, I had my phone, he had his phone as well. I had my camera, I had my phone, I had my e-reader, I had my game system, something else as well. I just seemed to have all of the technology, so... but that was a bit of a pain, but we got through. I had to go through the super scanner, so... They've probably seen me naked now, but hey, who cares? As long as I got through, which I did, so that was fine. So obviously that is my first done and dusted, and I'm trying to go in chronological order here, even though I am being a bit scatterbrained. I apologise. So the next one I did while I was over there, because of course I had a pair of socks on the go. This is my rainforest socks, I'm calling them. The yarn is Opal Rainforest, one of their rainforest colourways. I think it's Amazonian Frankie. What kind of a bird he is, not entirely sure. I did a garter stitch heel. It's Fish Lips Kiss heel, but garter. Nice. I'll have to see how it wears. Not entirely sure I'd go to all of the effort for it again. I mean, Fish Lips Kiss heel, obviously, all of the time, because they're fantastic, but garter, don't know. Hard to see where your last wrap and turn was. Not as obvious as, or not wrap and turn, but hard to see where your last short row was. I haven't really got a lot to say about these, because they're just socks. 64 stitches. I got a bit fed up with the foot on the first one, made it a little bit shorter than I possibly should have. So if I hold the two together, you can see sort of the one nearest you is a tiny bit shorter than the one furthest away, but it's not a huge difference. Again, I like a longer cuff now, so this is 20 rows of 2x2 ribbing, and they are the same length. Yes, they are. So yeah, that was pretty enjoyable. I knitted, sort of had most of one, I think, last time when I showed you, or I was down to past the heel when I showed you guys, and then I've managed to sort of finish them while I was away. It was a relatively easy finish because they can sort of come with you, can't they? Not that I knitted a lot while I was away. I didn't find a huge amount sort of time to knit because we were often going places. Reese as well. Obviously no credit to Reese. Reese drove over there because I couldn't. I haven't passed my test long enough. You have to have passed your test for 2 years before you can drive a hire car. Before they'll let you drive a hire car. So that was fine, but instructions were awful for a lot of the places. Our sat-nav didn't like them. So our sat-nav would say, take a right. You'd be, okay, so you'd be going for the next right, but it wouldn't be that right. It'd be right in like half a mile. So I ended up doing a lot of the travelling sat in the passenger seat with the sat-nav on my knee going, it says right, but not this right, fourth right. Or it says go right, but half a mile and then right. Which right? This one, this one, this one, that one. Not this one, not that one, next one. So that was fine. I mean, I'd rather help Reese so that he could spend most of his concentration on the road, but travelling time is where I get a lot of my prime knitting time. I was a bit reluctant to take my test anyway, but thought, we'll do it for Canada, and then it turned out to be useless for Canada. But never mind. Not useless for things like driving yourself to Bristol Wool Fair, which is, of course, the most important part. So I am going out of order now because these aren't the next ones I finished, but they're the ones I put on the sock blocker. These are my Blue Tit socks. This is one, and then that's the other. So, yes, the striping, as you've noticed, does not match up. That's fine. They're socks. So this is with the Blue Tit yarn by West Yorkshire Spinners. These were pretty quick, actually. So look at my... give you a better look at them while I have a look. I started them on February the 25th and finished them on March the 14th. So that's pretty quick for me for socks. Especially because I started back at work. I think I finished the first one in maybe 2 or 3 days while I wasn't in work. Again, there's not really a huge amount I can say about these. 2.5mm needles, my own sock recipe, which is 64 stitches, 20 rows on the cuff, and then a fish lips kiss heel, and then just a standard toe. The one where you decrease at sort of either end of your needle. So you decrease 4 stitches around, and then a plain round, and then 4 stitches. Down to about 10, I think I go to now, and then I Kitchener the toe shut, which I can do now without looking. Well, not without looking, but without looking up the instructions for Kitchener, or grafting, as it's often known in the UK. So yeah, so they were fun to knit. I like the striping. I do. Striping yarns they're fantastic. But the thing is with striping yarns, with some of them, certain patterns would work. The Braymore pattern, which again is a paid for pattern, but that's incredibly versatile. That would be okay with these socks. That would work with a self-patterning pair, but some of the more advanced sock patterns, they just wouldn't work, and that's fine. There's nothing entirely wrong with that, and there's nothing... I'll explain why I'm leaning that way in a minute. There's nothing entirely wrong with knitting pairs of socks that just are. That just are plain socks. Most of mine actually are. Including this next pair. So, while I was away, I had taken some... I cut down the amount of yarn I'd taken. and pre-wound. I'd pre-wound a big sort of a list of it and thinking, oh, I'll take it all, and then cut it down dramatically because I will. And it was correct. I didn't have enough time to knit everything I wanted to. I came back with most of these. I think I'd got to the foot. I'd very nearly got to the decreases on the first one of these before we boarded the plane back. And then on the plane back, I got the foot done, and I got, I think, down to the heel turn on the second one. These are my rainbow socks in... it's hard because I am nearer the camera here to show you guys things. The yarn is Knit Picks. It's the Felici, which is limited edition, sort of twice a year. And it is the rainbow colourway, which seems to be a repeated colourway. Last couple of times I've looked. This, again, is a 64 stitch sock, 20 rows of rib, fish lips kiss heel, and a standard toe. Yeah, I bought this first year in the Knit Picks sale, because Knit Picks now ships to the UK. It never had done before, so it's quite fantastical, really. I'm quite enjoying that. As I say, and I'm sure I've talked about this before on the blog, back when I first started knitting in 2007, there didn't seem to be a huge amount of suppliers for natural wool within the UK. I mean, you got your Rowans and things like that, but they were all sort of quite expensive, especially for me. I mean, still for me, I'm an underpaid civil servant, but I mean, especially for me at the time as a student, wasn't so bad that first year, but then when I moved to uni, it's worse, but yeah. But especially for me, an underpaid student. So things like Knit Picks seemed fantastical because you could buy pure wool, for a really decent price. But now we've got drops, and although some of the stuff is not comparable, and there is nothing as soft as Felici, I don't think. It's so soft. Just love sitting petted. Even though the socks not yet been on feet, it's fine. So I suppose they're my feet, aren't they? But yeah, there was nothing quite comparable. So I mean, Felici, still love. Hawthorn, I've got a couple of skeins of that to try. Might really like that, but everything else I'm sort of a bit about. But I really enjoyed doing these, and I've got two more colourways. I have got the Doctor Who one, and again, because I've had two skeins of that before, and I also have the Baker Street. That's the one I'm thinking of. So, socks, all of the socks. Somebody in work today asked me, "Oh, what you knitting? Socks?" Socks, yeah. Oh, is there socks? Yeah. Yes, I do. So anyway, last time as well, I showed you Fabergé, which is a fantastical pattern by Laura Ayler, and is incredibly pretty. And this will not do it justice at all, and neither really does the picture on my page. But there's a better shot of the beads, and the sort of the eyelet lace section, and the huge ruffle section. Now, I was petrified when this came off the needles because it seemed really small, blocked out beautifully. The yarn is Whistle Bear Yevering, Yeavering, Bell, 4-ply. So I bought two skeins, one at both at both at Wonderwool. Yarndale. I didn't even go to Yarndale. Talking to somebody about shows today again, and Yarndale came up. So I bought both of these skeins at Wonderwool. So I really wanted, as I said, to get the projects finished this year. So it's a nice size. It is triangular, so of course it's slightly sort of bib-like. And again, I apologise if this muffles the microphone that's under there. But yeah, I really like it. It's mohair and wool, so it is a little bit on the prickly side. But it is really nice, and it's incredibly warm. It's, it's something that I think I'm going to get, quite a bit of wear out of. And I think the more you wear it, the less sort of prickly it will be. I think as well, probably be helped. Not that I wear a turtleneck, because if I wear a turtleneck, it looks like I don't have a neck. You can tell, look at the... I've eaten so much salty foods this last couple of days. We went out for dinner yesterday with Reese's family, and then Reese tonight really needed a wee, and the only place that had toilets was KFC. So he was like, oh, we've got to have tea then. Whatever. So, yeah, I've eaten so much salt the last couple of days. I'm really bloated. Lifting. But maybe, that would be an option. Having it just sort of slung over your shoulders. It's noticeably prickly to start off with, but as you wear it, it gets less and less, sort of so, I suppose. The beads. I love beads. I hated adding them, but I really like the effect that they have. And yeah, it's blocked out to be sort of a good shawl. I thought it was going to take me forever. But I started it on January the 20th, and I finished it February the 26th. And you'll bear in mind that in there was 3 weeks that I was in Canada, and I did not take this with me. It was mainly because it was on metal needles, and I was paranoid that security would take them off me. But yes, so we landed back, and I finished it within sort of 2 days of landing back, I think. Because it is true, once you get over that knitting the big ruffle, because it's knitted from the bottom to the top, once you get over knitting that big ruffle, then you get to the beaded section. Then once you're bored with the beads, you're done with the beads, and you're onto the eyelet section. And once you're done with the eyelet section, it keeps decreasing away anyway, so you're sort of 90% of the way there. Anyway, 32 minutes. My last, I promise, last show and tell for you is another 2 skeins I bought at Wonderwool. So 2 skeins, and then the last skein is on the needles. I have never knitted all of the yarn I bought at a show before going back to the show the next year. It's a Christmas miracle. It's just a non-denominational Easter miracle. I mean, Easter miracle was obviously, obviously the Easter miracle. If you're Christian, I suppose. Judaism, Jewish people don't celebrate Easter, do they? No, shut up, Hannah. Don't bring religion into a podcast. That's such an irrelevant thing to say. But yes, it's a miracle for me. It really is. I don't always have the desire to knit with things that I bought, because sometimes I want them at the time I buy them, and then because I can't get to them straight away, they lose all of their shininess. And then I buy new things and cast those on straight away if I'm in a position to do so. And then stash happens. I mean, I'm looking at the big basket of yarn. Stash happens fairly significantly for me. Because I'm at the stage now in my life where I do have disposable income. I'm very fortunate to have disposable income, and even though some of the stuff we do go without a lot of stuff in order to have a bit of spending money. But anyway, right, so if I show you the right side of this, it always helps. This is more like amethyst. Oh, and I still showed you no, I didn't show you the wrong side. More like amethyst. The pattern is pink topaz, and the designer is Very Busy Monkey. So I bought the variegated, and this is my Easy Knits story. They're both yarns are by Easy Knits, and they're both Twinkle, which is their 4-ply base. I picked out this variegated, which is called Spellcaster. Spellcaster spoke to me from the moment I stepped into the booth. There is a lot of John's yarns that do that to me. Every skein that I bought has practically been a decision. This is Frodo, which is a pair of socks. Again, I'll explain with what the thing's about in a minute. And yeah, Frodo pulled me in from across the way, and as did this Spellcaster. I mean, you know, it was an inevitable thing that I would go to their booth anyway, but not now. So yes, so I picked out that, and I picked out a yellow, because there's quite a bit of yellow sort of within this skein. So I thought, oh, I'll pick out a yellow to sort of go with it. And then I met Sweep. Sweep is John's miniature Dachshund mini sausage dog, and I was enamoured. Sweep didn't particularly want anything to do with me because there were other dogs in the thing and he was sort of a bit wary of those. But I was enamoured with Sweep. And then we went away. I bought it. We went away. We had lunch. And then I realised that I got the wrong bloody weight. Spellcaster, 4-ply, fingering weight, which was what I needed for my pattern. The yellow I picked up, which matched the yellow in it perfectly. DK weight. So I had to go back and I asked, I think it's John's husband or partner anyway. I think it's his husband. I asked him to pick me. I said I brought the wrong weight, and he said, "Oh, what did you want instead?" And I said 4-ply to go with the yellow. So he picked me out this purple, which is I can't remember the name of the colourway, and I haven't written it down on Ravelry. See the cables on the edging there? I have not blocked this yet though. So I'm actually, you know, purple's not my general sort of go-to colour, but it perfectly matches the purple in the variegated. And I think this is the key for me. I love shawls that have slightly complicated edgings. I mean, it's still a very slight variegated. It's more of a kettle dye, one supposes. I love the variegated, the bright, bold variegated yarns like these, but when you pair them in something other than garter or stockinette stitch, you lose stitch patterns. You know, I mean, the light isn't fantastic here to see the cables, but you would definitely not see them were they in this variegated. So these sort of shawls where you knit the body and then you knit an attached edging are fantastic for me, because that way I can knit the body and the brightly variegated I like, and then I can pick out a complementary colour or a contrasting colour. I can pick a colour out from the shawl and I can just do the edging in a solid or semi-solid. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. I think a lot of the shawls I knit are going to sort of follow that plan, because I can't not variegated. I can never not variegated. Plus the other advantage is with this one I made the shawl a lot bigger. The Easy Knits are quite generous in their skeins put-ups. This was 402 metres per 100 grams, and I knitted until I had only 25 grams of the main colour left. I could have got another repeat probably out of it, because all you have to do is you just have to maths for your for your repeats along the bottom. Because especially with ones like that, where they're knitted on sidewards, you're eating up one stitch for every 2 rows that you knit. So as long as your end number is divisible by the amount of stitches, you're golden. Obviously taking into account for any edge stitches or, I mean, you know, like this has got a few rows of garter at the end, just to sort of stabilise it and stop any rolling that would occur if it was stockinette. But yeah, I mean, mine might be a row or 2 off from what she'd originally intended, but no layperson is going to turn around and tell me I'm wrong. No knitter is going to turn around and tell me I'm wrong, because if you're looking that closely, then, you know. But anyway, so that is it for... I don't know whether I even introduced this category, did I? Probably not. That is it for FO Frenzy. And it was a frenzy, because we've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things that I have just whipped through. No whirlwind, no inner spin. Whirlwind romance is from another vlog I watch. No inner spin this week, and probably not next time as well, because winter camp, doesn't allow spinning or weaving, so that's fine, which is fine. I knew this when I signed up, so I've decided to not dedicate time to weaving or spinning. Not that I weave, presumably weaving or spinning, while I could be knitting 4 points for camp. So yes, none of that at the moment. So I have a huge, extraordinary amount of yarn for the Ooh Shiny section, which is my bought section. This is a carrier bag from Hudson's Bay, which is one of their department stores in Canada, and it is pretty much full of lovely, lovely things that I've bought. So I'm going to try and hopefully record twice more, I think, between now and Wonderwall, and they will be shorter episodes because there will not be as much to show you. So my eventual aim is to try and get episodes down to sort of to the half an hour mark, because I know it is a lot to watch, an hour, and I know it is an extraordinary amount to watch, 2 hours, which is what we would be if I was to show you all of these skeins of yarn. So it's now 41 minutes, so I am gonna maybe try and show you some stuff for like 10 minutes, try and sort of get through some of it, because I really want to sort of keep this under an hour. So my first thing that I really love that I bought, and I only bought it today, was from Argos, actually. See if I can get them out, because there's 3 of them and they come stacked and I didn't bother to unstack them. But it's these. They are storage boxes. Now these were $8.99, which is a really good, oh no, were they 13? Oop, doesn't like something with my light. These were 13 pounds, I think 14 pounds. They're plastic, which is fine, because the rattan effect, I was a bit cautious if they actually were rattan, because I wanted to store knitwear within them. So, you know, snacks, obviously, major issue. But I thought that these are absolutely perfect for storing my hand knit socks. And I don't want to sort of, because they might all tip out, but look at that. This is all but one pair of my hand knit socks at the moment. And the pair that's on the needles obviously isn't in there. So I will have, by the time those come in, I will have filled this drawer pretty much entirely. But it's good because they come in a pack of 3. So I have at the moment in here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 pairs of socks. So it'll fit 22 in. So my aim is that I will fill this one and this one. And, well, the aim is eventually that I'll fill all 3. That would be fantastic. But for now, I'll fill 2 and use one as a wash basket. Because, obviously, hand knit socks, for me, I do wash them in the machine. But I wash them on the woolen cycle. So I don't wash them with other don't wash other hand knits in the machine as a general rule. And I definitely don't wash them with other items like other socks or other socks, jumpers, t-shirts, trousers. None of that. They get their own private little bath. So I really like those. They're from Curver. You know, Curver, it's pretty much a standard make, isn't it? I didn't know they still made things anymore. My mother would always put stuff in Curver boxes. Do you know that I actually ever realised it was a brand? You know, a bit like Hoover. But our toaster blew up today, so we had to go to Argos to pick some things up. So I've picked those up, and I've picked up some pretty display boxes for when we get a shelving unit moved into here, which should be brilliant because then they fit. And they fit actually 3 to a shelf. So I've got 1, 2, 3 shelves I can use them on. So I should be able to fit some stuff. And then hopefully my aim is I'll move my sock yarn collection into those boxes. Possibly organised by colour, who knows. Right, so this is all going to be yarn from now on mostly, or things I bought in Canada. And it's going to be a hodgepodge of places that I bought things. I can try and remember where I got stuff. might not be helpful. I mean, I don't know how many people watch my podcast anyway, and how many of those are actually in Vancouver or Seattle, where we did get some other stuff. But anyway, I'll try and explain as we go through. So I think this actually is spinning fibre. And that is awful. The glare from the... let's see if I can get some of it out. It's silk, so it's actually quite shiny, so it's reflecting pretty badly. But it is silk caps, 100% silk caps. And then there's 41 grams within there. I've never spun silk before, nor silk caps, so I am going to have to research how to spin it. But it was, they're not, no, it's not like silk hankies, which is the only other thing I have any relevant experience with reading about. So this was from, there's a place on Granville Island. Yeah. Nice. Which is a weaving shed. They do weaving, but they also have a bit of knitting and knitting yarns, and it's all silk. So I thought I'd pick some of that up because I haven't ever spun silk, and it does look quite interesting. I think it was $14.35 for 41 grams of silk. So I had money in my yarn fund at this point. Yeah. I deputised. My boss was sick before Christmas, and my deputising came through like literally before we left for Canada. Oh, it's a matter of pence. Don't think that I had a huge fortune to spend on yarn. It is literally a matter of pennies. I think it works out at £3.40 something a day for taking on all of her responsibility that she gets paid £5,000 a year more for. But I would have done it because the work needed doing, and I'm the only person who actually, everybody does care, but it bothers me if it's not done, so it needed doing. And, looking for promotion and all of that stuff. Anyway, this isn't showing you things. So, the next place we went to was, we went to the Capilano Suspension Bridge, which is not where I got the yarn, but which is terrifying. It is as tall as the Statue of Liberty's shoulder. It is a hell of a height, and it is a suspension bridge over a gorge. And it is a shaky suspension bridge, and it is normally filled with about 50 people at a time, or at least it felt like 50 people at a time. Neither me nor Reese actually have a head for heights, which is stupid to say. I mean, why did we go and visit it? But it's one of the things to do, and it is absolutely glorious. It's a very gorgeous place to be. But we both did that. So you cross over the suspension bridge, and then there's a treetop walk, again, up high, and then there's a cliff walk. And I mean, you've paid your entrance fee, so you sort of feel like, you get over the suspension bridge, and then you think, sugar. Oh no, that was terrifying. And then you realise that the only way back is across the bridge again. So you go and you have a wander, and we took some photographs, and it's really nice. We did the treetop walk, we came back across, we had a cup of coffee, and then we did the cliff walk, which is also terrifying. A lot of my photos from that just sort of just taking pictures and moving forward as fastly as I can. But on the way back, we hit a yarn shop, Bad Anna's, B-A-A-D, Bad Anna's, which I really liked. So I got some. I tried to get all yarn that I would not get in the UK. So I got some white birch fibre arts, and this is their self-striping. It is blue and it's sort of blue and grey and taupe, and they're out of Dover, Vermont, which I know is in the US and not in Canada, but still, it's not something we get over here. And postage for things is not horrible. Oh, that's a better colour. Postage for things is not horrible. Import tax for things is horrible. You spend over £15, and then you have import tax of 20% plus a £20 handling fee. And all of a sudden you're looking sort of like nearly double your money for a skein of yarn. So things when things are on sale, I will occasionally indulge, provided it's under the £15 fee, but a lot of this sort of isn't. I mean, this was $44.95, so, you know, in English, that's £22, £23, $22.50 probably. But, yeah. The colourway for this one is Sand in My Seagrass, which is lovely, and it does self-stripe. And I love the inscription, which is, friends don't let friends craft with insipid yarn. So while we were also there, I picked up this. It's a little bit more green and a little bit more bright than it's showing on the camera. And again, that's a lighting problem, I'm sorry. But this is Rainy City Yarns. And it is it's a local dyer. That is a local dyer to Vancouver. And it is super sock, 100 grams, 463 yards, 423 metres, 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon. So I really liked that as well. And then at this point Reese was getting itchy. But I found what I came in there for, which is this yarn. How gorgeous is that? So this is Ancient Art Yarns. And I definitely think I will actually order some more of this. Christina has agreed to be my mule, and I'm not entirely sure how legal it is, but if I get stuff sent to her, she can send it to me and declare it as a gift rather than as a purchase, which then pushes the thing up to 50 quid. But this is from their Meow collection, which is sort of cat colours. And so this one is, obviously this is their calico. Is it the calico colour? Yes. Yes, Calico Cat, which is the tortoiseshell was a bit too brown for me, and this is sad now. Our hamster Isla was this colour. This is, you know, she was a tortoiseshell hamster, and it's quite a rare sort of a colour for hamsters, and it was lovely to see sort of yarn. I knew this was what I wanted to get, yarn in her weight. This is 5. Heavy fingering or sport weight, so it will create some quite dense socks. But the woman was knitting it on 2.5, and the seemed fine in regards to the sort of the thickness of the sock and the sort of the feel of the fabric. It wasn't overtly stiff. Unfortunately, Isla passed away 2 weeks ago. So we came home. She was fine. She'd had a lovely time on her holidays with Reese's cousin. And then sort of the next day after she came home, she was bleeding, and she had a cut down by her vulva, which is always a cause for panic, especially in small animals. I mean, we ascertained in the end that it wasn't coming from her vulva, which would have meant either pyro, which is or pyometra, which is an infection of the womb, or she said it's sometimes an infection of the bladder, but it wasn't. It was a cut. It's fine. So we sort of left it and tried to see, but no, she was still bleeding quite badly. So we ended up having her in for surgery. We could have glued the wound. The vet could have glued the wound, but she would have probably have irritated it and opened it up even more, and we'd have had to have gone in for surgery. So we went in for surgery anyway. She said there was a huge blood clot in it, and that there was something else in there as well that she couldn't quite see what it was, and labs and stuff, expensive, so, you know, we sort of left it. And then sort of a week later, she just wasn't right. She wasn't interested in eating, even sort of junk food, you know, even sort of like the milk, you know, the, like, sort of the nourishment milk. It's sort of like an energy drink for, I don't know, the only people I've ever seen drinking it are like sort of elderly people. But it's a meal replacement. It has all your food and nutrients in it. She was lapping that up the night before. Next day, didn't want to know, didn't want to drink, didn't want to eat. So we had to do what we had to do, which was obviously to have her put to sleep. So we're really, really sad, and we really, really miss her. But I know this is as I say, this is the fingering weight. So I am going to make a pair of socks out of this. I will probably make a pair of socks for Reese out of this, you know, Isla socks. And then I'm going to order myself another skein, because it wasn't horrendously expensive. $28, 14 quid. And I think I'll order myself lace weights as well to make a scarf, or a shawl. But yeah, so thinking of her while we were over there, and then it was a little bit sort of sad. But it is always sad, isn't it, to lose an animal, especially one you love. And hamsters, as we know, they don't live for very long. We'd had her 18 months. She was 4 months old when we got her, so, you know, statistically, she had a good innings for a hamster, and she'd lived a perfectly charmed sort of life. A better life than most, really, to be honest. She's completely and utterly waited on, and, you know, completely and utterly ruled we were, and we always are, by our tiny little furry overlords. Hopefully, we have inquired for a hamster rescue, and she is hopefully found us a little girl, another little girl. She's 6 months old, so, again, we won't get along, but then we're not supporting the horrible breeding conditions that happen at the mills for pets at home. And, you know, it's the little things, isn't it, sometimes? Anyway, moving on. I've got 5 more minutes. I'm going to show you another scaly. So on the last day, jumping ahead here, there was one more yarn shop that I wanted to see, and we had some money left in the budget on the card, which you'll find amazing after I show you everything I bought. I spent the most money on this holiday. Reese got a jumper, and that was all he wanted. So we went to a little yarn shop called Black Sheep, and it was amazing. She stocked so much Rowan. She stocked a ton of Rowan. She stocked Bahram U, which is in Leeds, I want to say. It's Yorkshire. And she also stocked the most amazing selection of hedgehog fibres, which is Ireland. I was actively hard pushed to find local wool there, which was utterly ridiculous. I could have easily have walked away with, I love, I've never had Bahram U yarn, which I must remedy at Wonderwool because they will be there. And I love me some hedgehog fibres, but I wanted local. So, Sweet Georgia is a local dyer to Canada. And this is their Tough Love sock in Hummingbird. So it is hand dyed in Canada, and look at those gorgeous colours. I mean, you can't see, it's sort of washing out that bit there, but that's a lovely deep, that's a lovely sort of, it's coming up blue, but it's a lovely sort of a deep purple. And it is glorious. That pink is as bright as it should be, and that green is neon practically. Oh, I love it so much. It's squishing. So I bought that, and that was my last purchase. And again, that wasn't horribly bad. I don't think it's got oh yes, it has $30, so 15 quid. 2-to-1 in Canada at the moment. Really good exchange rate. Is how I'll justify the more Ancient Arts one. Though I think they are American. AncientArtFibers.com. So, yeah, probably American. But never mind. So, yes, that was that. So, I think I'll just very, very quickly whip through the last few. The last few I got. Have to excuse the crinkling. Okay, yes, I think those are all. Yes. The rest are from Seattle and the local yarn shop in Seattle, which we only found the one, which was in Pike Place Market, and also from Michael's, which I know is a big brand name for most of you, but so this last bit is from Valley Yarns, which is incredibly local to my friend Christina, and we only managed to go once, but I managed to go once. It's hard yarn shopping, isn't it, with somebody who doesn't know and doesn't understand. Christina is great because Christina likes colours. Reese's sister Kirsty is great because Kirsty likes colours. Reese, not so much. So this is the first one I got, and oh no, has it lost its tag? I think it might have lost its tag. I will have to just talk to you about it while I go hunting through the stash, because I did enter all of these into my stash. So this is, it is sock yarn because it's merino and it is nylon as well. It's Ocean Parks Yarns Classic Sock. So it's 75% merino, 25% nylon. Neon Rainbow Splattered is the colourway, and you can totally tell that it is. It's glorious. I somehow don't think that this will be a pair of socks, mainly because I'm not entirely sure of the logistics of a mainly white pair of socks. I just don't think that they would maintain the colour, but again, it's an eminently wearable colour, either for a cowl or for a hat. Wrist warmers, let's just put it everywhere on the body. Bra, no, not anything a bra. But yeah, it is absolutely glorious. I won't ever be able to twist it up as nicely as it was twisted, but you can see that it actually truly is sort of splattered along the sort of the dye length, which is wonderful. I haven't knit with a splattered yarn before. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with that, some of that up. The ladies in here were fantastic, although they did keep trying to steer me towards the hedgehog yarns, of which they also had an amazing selection, right? And I'm like, it's across the world, halfway across the world, right? Hedgehog yarns is quite hard to find by me. Bath is one place I know that stocks it. But I mean, we don't have a huge variety of local yarn shops. I know my local yarn shop doesn't stock it. Trying to. How much money more would I spend in there if she had hedgehog yarns? Yeah, that's not awful. It's not great, but it's not awful. So yeah, so that's that. So yeah, but that's local. She is a very new local dyer, apparently, according to the ladies in the shop. Not quite sure how true that is, but very nice. And then this is the most gorgeous colour. It's sort of washing it out a bit on the screen. It's more orange, slightly more orange in real life than that. It's showing up as quite yellow. It's called Golden Pumpkin, which is a pretty accurate descriptor of the yarn. And this again is it's 4-ply weight, fingering weight yarn, 370 yards per 100 grams. Gabriola Island, BC, Canada. And this is, I thought this had nylon in it. It didn't. It's 100% superwash merino. So this again will not become socks. I just don't want to risk it without the nylon content. I don't think it's worth it. Especially, I mean, I don't think, how much was this? $28, so £14 again. Not a huge expense of yarn for socks, but I think this would look lovely as sort of like a honeycomb cowl maybe. I don't wear a lot of cowls though, but definitely a shawl. I mean, I wear tons of shawls. Anyway, so I have now blathered on for an hour and 2 minutes, so I'm 2 minutes over where I wanted to be. So I just end bits, I suppose. I haven't really got a lot to tell you that I've told you in the things. Life is busy. Work is relatively busy, but easing off. Coming home quite late. Trying to get tidied. It's Easter this weekend, so we have a 4-day weekend. Technically, actually, really, I have a sort of a 4.5-day weekend because I'm going out for food on Thursday with friends from work, and then a couple of cocktails afterwards. I won't stay out very long though, because I'm boring. Boring and married. I was boring before I got married. Yeah, me and Reese got married. That was a big thing. We lost Isla, which again was a sad thing. We were having a great time sort of celebrating with our families. Reese got a new computer, so I don't see him. He's on about getting a PlayStation. Now we've got our back pay from work, so I won't see him. I'm looking forward to Wonderwall, which is at the end of April. So that's something that's coming up really soon, to be honest. Sooner than I'd anticipated. It's creeping up on me again, but I've bought my ticket for the Woolfest, and I think I've bought my ticket for the after show, which should be good. And Angie's buying me my ticket for the main thing, I think, and I'll pay her back, obviously. Yeah, I'm hoping to get back into recording a little bit more regularly, as in sort of every 2 weeks. So I know this is an odd day because it's a Tuesday. But I'm hoping to sort of next podcast on the probably the 3rd of April, which is a 2nd or 3rd of April, which is Saturday or a Sunday, which then means that I'll have another one before Wonderwall, because I want to get through my stash. I want to show you guys what remains in the bag of mystery and the bit I put on my LYS as well. Because Anna buys yarn. So I hope you've enjoyed listening to me witter on, and I know I've crammed a lot into a very short space of time, but thank you ever so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. You can find me as CraftyLittleRat on Ravelry and on Instagram. I'm hoping to set up a Ravelry group at some point, but I keep saying this and I never do, so watch this space. But thank you ever so much for watching. I really do appreciate you spending time listening to me prattle on. And hopefully I'll see you again next time. Ta-ra!